Endorphins are neuropeptides from the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. They cross the blood-brain barrier and head into the opioid receptors to block pain and create feelings of euphoria. And if anything I said resonates inside your head, then tune on in to the Endorphin Report.
Welcome to the Endorphin Report. I'm Daniel.
I'm Cynthia.
And this is a podcast about romantic movies and the endorphins that they give us. So yeah, let's talk about endorphins. What are endorphins, Cynthia?
Well, in relation to this...
Yeah, not the scientific version of...
Not the scientific. We're just talking what I call endorphin sprinkles, which is the happy feelings you get from certain scenes in movies, which we are focusing on the romantic parts.
That's right. So this is about the movie Leap Year from 2010, starring Amy Adams, Matthew Goode, and Adam Scott. So you came to this movie questing for endorphins. Can you talk about how you came to it?
So in 2010, I think I did see it, and it looked like a flashy little rom-com, and I watched it. And I remember it gave me strong feelings in which I was starting to vent to people about my feelings about it. And I would be like, why did this happen? Blah, 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 blah. So I don't know when you and I met, but I may have even ranted to you at some point.
It's very possible.
It's possible.
We're living in the same house. We're ex-housemates. Now this 11-year-old movie, and you're still thinking about it.
So I rewatched it, which is interesting to see how you feel, like, I don't know, like 11 years later after you saw it.
You're a different person.
Different position. Yeah, different perspective.
You're married now.
Mm-hmm.
And you've had life experiences. You've seen about 1,000 romantic comedies since then.
Yep.
And I'm very interested to hear what those new feelings are. Not just endorphin feelings, but other kinds of feelings.
Other feelings, like... I don't know how I felt about it at the time, but really entitled white women does not age well with this film. So, yeah.
So we're going to summarize the plot. Cynthia watched it. I have not. But it has a very personal significance, which I'll talk about at some point. Cynthia's going to describe the plot to me along with all the feelings that she had with it. Then we're going to talk about the next day. Like, what's going to happen the day after the denouement of this film? And will they make it? And also, ooh versus ew, which are the moments of courtship that are appealing or gross. The story of us.
Would one of us be interested in them?
Yeah, exactly. Each of these characters, how would we see ourselves in a relationship with them? And finally, ending it up with the Endorphin Report. So take it away. How does this movie start?
So it starts in a very shiny looking Boston. Like everything looks really clean and pretty.
You're saying Boston isn't clean?
It's a lot cleaner in the film. I mean, she's just walking around and everything's sparkling. And she's Amy Adams, named Anna. That's her character. So she's a super rich looking lady. Her job is she's a stager for apartments. So they show her walk in and there's this gorgeous apartment with huge windows and a huge balcony. And the realtor is like, not one person has bid. We need somebody to help us. And she goes, I got this. And she puts all this furniture in it. And she's like, put some cookies in. You'll have 5 offers before noon. And as we know, Boston real estate market, real hard to sell things, you know? I mean, you really got to convince
Just
people.
Sit around for such a long period of time. You keep lowering the price over and over.
You know? They're not gone in 24 hours. It just sits on the market for years.
Yeah, we live in Boston, and we're both at least thinking about buying stuff, and it is not...
Oh, yeah. I bought a place, and it was...
It's a nightmare,
Every
right?
place would just sell out. Would just, sell immediately. So it's laughable that a place needs... A place with a gorgeous balcony and huge windows and such needs to be staged with cookies. And she's just walking around in heels and Louis Vuitton stuff and whatever. So she is fancy, rich... all over. And she talks a lot about how much things cost. She's like, those shoes are $600.
So everything's going perfect for her.
Everything's going perfect. She's got a boyfriend of 4 years. And he goes up to her and he goes, are you ready for our special dinner? I have a special surprise tonight.
Oh boy, I know where this is going.
I know. She's been dropping hints to him and putting him on lists for wedding rings and stuff. Where I don't know, things to hint. So she's very excited. And somebody told her that she saw him coming out of a jewelry store. So this is big news. And she goes to the dinner and he's like, we've been together so long. It's so amazing to be with you. and he puts down a little box, and he's like, this is for you.
Mm-hmm.
What is in that box, Daniel? What do you think's in that box?
Key to his apartment. No, they're already living together.
Yeah, or they're going to
a new
move
car.
Something like that. No.
Key? Something.
It is diamond earrings.
Okay. Why would he say it like that?
Why? Yeah. Why would he act like he's about to propose? It's because it's a movie, and she's totally like, what?
The heroine also has to be deeply humiliated at the beginning.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, I have to go. Something about a surgery. I gotta go. And then I have to go to a cardiology conference in Ireland. I love you. Bye, sweetie. Love you. And she's like, great. Bye. She's very sad, and she is trying to sleep, and she's thinking of what her father had told her about how it's leap year, Daniel's birthday.
Uh-huh.
Is that your connection?
That's my connection.
That's your connection! Daniel's birthday!
I'm a leap year baby. Yeah, I got it in the newspaper when I was 4.
Oh, wow! I didn't know
very
you were a
exciting.
newspaper celebrity for your
I was
birth.
a celebrity in the Oak Bay newspaper.
Oh my gosh! Do people still ask you for like autographs? Or,
Sometimes,
like-
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I carry around that picture just to remind people of my
Yeah.
fame. They sometimes don't get it right away. But, I was big news at the time.
Oh wow, that's huge.
The murder was pushed to the page 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, at times I felt very special. Sometimes on the phone, I'll be talking to a customer service representative and give my birthday, and they'll enter it in, and then a split second later, they'll be like, hey, you're a leap year baby.
Yeah, you're
And I'll
so
be like,
special.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Mhm.
And sometimes they don't. And I'm like, boy, this person is really deadened. Like, they can't experience the magic of meeting a leap year person.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested. There's not a lot of stuff about leap years in the culture. We're kind of underrepresented. Basically, this and Pirates of Penzance and an episode of 30 Rock are kind of the only things we have.
All right, well, this is what you got now. So her grandmother in Ireland, grandmother was Irish, proposed to her boyfriend at the time in Ireland on leap year, because evidently in this movie they say in Ireland it's tradition that on leap year women can propose to men because it's allowed. Because otherwise, I don't know, is it illegal? Can women be hung or something for proposing to a man? Is it we're not able to do anything else for ourselves? But evidently
Yeah, what happens?
on leap year you're allowed to propose to a man. It's allowed.
Is this a real thing?
I don't know. Let's just go with it. It's what the film says.
It's got to be a real thing. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have had this dumb idea for a movie.
I'm guessing it's like that, but there's a lot of traditions that no one pays attention to.
So
Yeah.
the normal way that people get engaged is that they discuss it, right?
Yes. Most people would be like, this is a really big decision. Maybe we should talk about it instead of just, pouncing it on somebody. Maybe we should talk about our future and communication. In this one, she's like, he didn't propose, and that makes me sad, so I'm going to go propose to him because I'm only allowed to do it on February 29th in Ireland. Otherwise, I have no other way I can discuss this with him.
So she's going to buy an $800 plane ticket to Ireland.
Yes. So she gets last minute thing and she goes to Ireland, and then she's on the plane. She is being very entitled the whole time walking around Boston. They're on the plane and she just starts talking to this priest being like, I'm going to propose and it's going to be great. Suddenly all this turbulence happens and the oxygen masks fall and everyone's like, ah, and she literally yells, I'm not going to die without getting engaged. Like, that's... Once I get engaged, then I can die in the plane.
That's messed up.
That's messed up. And then they go, we're landing in Wales, everybody, because instead of Ireland, we're going to land in Wales, emergency landing. And she goes, I can't land in Wales. And the priest is like, at least we're going to land. And she goes, but I'm on a schedule. And he looks at her like, what the fuck, lady? Like, how entitled are you that, like, you're just like, I can't deal with emergency landings. I have things to do, people. She's the worst. I mean,
Yeah.
she's terrible in this part of the film. So then they land in Wales, and she literally goes up to the flight attendants, and they're like, there's no flights because of this massive storm right now. And she goes, you guys, I'm going to propose, so I'm sure you can make something work. You really think that, like, she really thought for a second that she could really sway flights and international, like, my gosh.
Okay, so there's going to be a wacky road trip.
Ugh. So instead of waiting a day for a flight, because she's like, I have to make it by the 29th, she decides to then...
So it's the 28th?
It's actually the 26th. I did the timeline, and it turns out it's the 26th. She could have just waited a day and took a flight. But instead she goes, no, I have to make it. So it's ridiculous. she instead takes a really treacherous boat ride that then also gets delayed because of the storm. And it leaves her in this Irish town called Dingle. She goes into this pub that's super dreary, and it's just a bunch of old men who look really drunk. And she asks for a cab. And the pub guy, it kind of comes out that he's the taxi driver, and he's the hotel owner, and he's the pub owner and everything, because they're a small town. How do you be the taxi driver and run the pub? That doesn't make sense. She's like, I'll pay you to drive me. And he goes, I don't want to go to Dublin. Dublin is terrible people. And he's very cranky. And she offers him 500 euros. The way they communicate that this is an old town is this is in 2010. She plugs in her phone charger and it blacks out the entire village. What kind of grid system is this that she blacks out the entire village with a small phone charger? Like, geesh. So the cab, all this guy, his name's Declan. And guess what? He's attractive. He is in debt, and he is also really cranky to her, and he's really pissy a lot of the time. And she's also very entitled, and he's kind of like, fuck off. He owes money, otherwise the pub is going to close down. So he goes, okay, I'll take you to Dublin. I'll drive you with his car. They basically insult each other a million times. So it's not a great dynamic. He mocks her. She's like, I'm going to propose to my partner. And he's like, that's dumb. You're just trying to trap him, whatever.
What about his pub and his
Somebody's evidently
bar?
Running it. This is why it doesn't make sense to be the taxi driver to drive somebody hours away and then also run a pub and hotel. Who's going to be running it?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
I guess it's to cater to the fantasies of women, whether you're fantasizing about taxi drivers or about pub owners or about hotel owners.
Yes.
Whichever one. He covers all the bases.
He covers it all. And guess what? He wears great sweaters. That is key.
Okay.
Good sweaters.
I'm picturing a sweater vest.
Nope.
Okay.
Big old
full
wool sweater. Big old wool sweater. Occasionally he's got a pea coat, but the wool sweater's the best.
Mm-hmm.
You know how, in Knives Out, everybody made a big deal about Chris Evans' sweater? This, to me, is a good sweater.
Okay.
It's a good sweater. And they're in the countryside, so super gorgeous Irish countryside.
Which I recently saw in Wild Mountain Thyme, which is the funniest movie I've ever seen. But that's a tale for another time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they always bump up the green.
Big old hills everywhere. She's still being the worst, and he's still being a cranky pants. And then they're waiting for a train. It's going to come in 2.5 hours. And they're sitting and they're staring at a castle up a hill. And he goes, I'm going to walk up there. And she goes, fine, I'm going to go too. And they walk up. He's actually telling some fable about some people who got together about dealing with the castle. And at the end, so he's actually being nice and telling some Irish fable. And at the end he goes, and then they fell in love or something like that. And she looks at him and she goes, you're hitting on me. He's like, no, what are you talking about? So she's really obnoxious. But she ends up going to an inn with him. And the inn is run by an old Irish couple who say that they will not accept anybody who's not married because they're old school. And so she and him have to pretend that they're married.
Okay, so they get a single bed.
They get a single bed. There's an Italian couple, and there's the Irish inn couple, and they start talking about in lasting relationships because of good kisses. So then they literally all go around and kiss their own spouse a lot. Literally make out. Make out.
So to maintain their cover, they have to make out.
The guy literally goes, okay, give her a kiss. And they're kind of quick little kiss. And he goes, come on, man, kiss the girl. And then they do a big old make out in front of the people where she kisses her and then she starts to go, oh, and then they start to make out more in front of the people.
But he has this earthy Irish kissing ability.
He's got the flowed hair where it's kind of messy and he's just kind of little a little messy, whereas Adam Scott is a cardiologist who's really clean cut. So, This guy is the cleaner cut. So Declan is very oh, everything will be fine. And this is where she opens up to him. She's like, is it? Because my father just, did all these harebrained things and said everything would be fine, and it isn't. So this is why she basically is why she's a control freak.
Much like the moment where we learn Cruella de Vil hates Dalmatians because they killed her mother.
That did not happen, correct?
It does happen.
No way. Really?
I promise you that really
way.
Happened.
No,
that
it
is
didn't.
true. That is a true fact.
No, it didn't. I don't believe that. So then they lie in bed because they're sharing a bed, and they have some sexual tension lying in their bed, and then they kind of look at each other and are like, whew, can't look at each other. Oh, So they feel sexual tension.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wake up and his arm is on her when they were sleeping. And then he's like, oh, takes that off. So then she's talking to her boyfriend on the phone. And Declan looks sad. Declan looks really sad a lot in the film. And she's like, okay, I'll see you soon. Miss you. Love you. And Declan looks like, oh, she loves him. I have feelings. Sad Declan is a big feature in this film. So it's, I don't know what day. I think it's the day before leap year because trains don't run. And they couldn't get a bus ride. So then they end up at a wedding. And the wedding, they said the minister will drive them after the wedding. So they hang out at the wedding. And he gets sad again about weddings. And then she literally says, do you want to talk about it? Like, you look sad. And he says, we're in Ireland, have a drink and shut up. So he's got great communication skills.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that sounds healthy for a relationship.
Yeah, no, super healthy. And then in the moonlight, they're literally by the water in the moonlight because they're in the most picturesque areas of Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
And she's drunk and she puts her arms around him and she's like, I understand. You're just in a lot of pain. This is why you're so cranky. And they're about to kiss and she pukes on him. And then that just happens that he just carries her away. And then they wake up on a bench together, like, sleeping. He thinks that she got on a bus when he wakes up and she's not there. And then he looks super sad and she sees him looking sad and she hands him a coffee and they have some talking. So I don't know. They both have feelings at this point.
Mm-hmm.
She's a little less entitled. She's being less annoying. Other things is she realizes one of the reasons he's so cranky about going to Dublin is because his ex is there and his ex ran off with his best friend or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And also has his family ring. He says he was really sad because his ex-girlfriend also has the ring that he gave her, proposed, his family ring. She's about to offer him payment, which he really needs. And he goes, nope, I don't need it because he doesn't want to accept payment because he's got feelings. He's in the hotel lobby with her. They've made it to Dublin. And they both give looks at each other. And then he walks away. And then he stops and has a look. And he's like, and he turns and he's like, Anna. And then boyfriend walks in. Adam Scott boyfriend appears in the hotel lobby. And what happens next? I'll tell you one thing. The boyfriend literally goes, why aren't we married? And he proposes in the hotel lobby. Right there. Then what happens next, Daniel? What happens at the end of the film? How does it end? Woo!
Okay, so we have to get her together with Declan.
Yeah, how does this happen?
Without making it seem like she's a
on?
terrible person.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of chess pieces to move around.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed.
A lot of, sliding tiles. Let's see. I think there's only one way that this can go, which is that it turns out that he's been cheating on her while he's in Ireland at this conference with a hot, other doctor lady.
Oh, okay.
I got it. Who's Declan's ex? So he tries to propose to her with Declan's old ring.
Oh.
So she recognizes it, angrily rejects him, runs off by herself in Dublin, and then they find each other on the streets of Dublin, and she proposes to him while it's still 11:59 on leap year day.
Oh,
leap day.
Cool.
That's how it's going to end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this movie is pretty ridiculous, so why not, right?
Yeah. Okay, I take it I'm wrong.
All of it's bananas, so why not? Yeah. So this does not happen, but that was a fair enough guess, right?
All right.
So, yeah. So what happens is she literally gets proposed to, which is what she's wanted from her boyfriend of 4 years, forever. And she looks up at Declan, and Declan's gone.
So if she waited a week for him to come back, she would have gotten proposed to.
So what happens is she gets proposed to. She pauses and looks for Declan and looks at him like, oh. And then he's not there. So then she goes, yes, okay, yes, of course. And then he smiles and they kiss. And so she flies back to Boston. They're moving into their super fancy luxury apartment. Declan meets his ex-girlfriend in Dublin and asks for the ring back. And she gives it back to him.
Okay.
Anna is having a housewarming party, and she ends up talking to her friend and her fiance now, and he says, they're like, oh, so you finally proposed, and he's like, oh, well, he kind of says, we had to do it to get the apartment, because the board kind of hinted they don't like unmarried people, so he's like, why not? I figured I'd get married. I did, propose, not a big deal. So he only proposed to get a nice apartment. That's why he did it, yeah.
What a douche.
Yeah. So Anna doesn't feel so good about this. So she goes into her large kitchen and looks sad. And then this is the great part. She looks over at the wall. And in this uber luxury apartment, they have one of those big red like fire alarm signs that when you break glass to pull the fire alarm, they literally have it on the wall. And she looks over at it, and Declan had mentioned in the whole film, he goes, what would you do if you had 60 seconds to grab something in like a fire? Like, what means a lot to you? And he was like, I would get that ring if I had to. Like, you know, what matters to you? To deal with her being sad and not being happy with her fiance, instead of talking to her fiance, she literally breaks it and pulls the fire alarm, which I'm pretty sure you get fined for.
Do they have those inside an apartment?
I don't think they do. I think it's literally like in a school or something, but they do not have that in luxury apartments. They don't have a big red fire alarm sign that with a break glass.
Okay, this is crossing the line into very extreme behavior, I would say.
Just talk to your fiance and be like, you're crappy. I don't feel this is good. Instead, she breaks it, and then she's upset that he's literally running around trying to grab valuables for them to go out, and you're like, well, that's actually what a person would do, is they grab their valuables to leave.
Like sweep her up in his arms?
I don't know, right? Like she looks at him like, how materialistic are you? But I mean, you'd grab your phone and you'd probably grab your laptop if you actually thought there was a fire. So, and that's what he does. But yes, he's a douche.
We actually had a disaster like that in my apartment on Friday night where the toilet tube burst and started spraying large volumes of water on the bathroom floor and all the way down the hall.
Oh, man.
And it was just tides and tides of water. And I did not handle it particularly well. I didn't try to like rescue my wife.
You didn't just sweep her up in your arms and be like, I have you, and that's all that matters.
Above the water. Yeah. Our things may get ruined, but not our love.
Not our love. Then her fiance, he's like grabbing his laptop and he goes, honey, and she's gone. And then they kind of flash forward and they show the cliffs of Ireland. And Declan has saved his pub by having a whole kind of save the pub fund drive. And he's running now what looks like a very bustling restaurant that looks very nice in his pub. Somebody says that the chicken is dry, and he runs out to be like, who the hell is saying bad things about my chicken? And it's her. And everybody in the pub stops and stares at her. And she's like, I'm here. And he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I came 3,000 miles to see you. He's like, what about your boyfriend? She's like, we broke up. And she goes, I just want to not make plans, not be a control freak, just be with you and see where things go. Is that okay? Which is actually the most reasonable thing I've heard about in a rom-com, of just being like, can we just be together and see what happens? Because I like you.
Can we just chill out together?
Yeah, right? Because we only liked each other for like 5 hours out of 2.5 days together. Maybe we should take this slow. So he kind of grins for a sec, but kind of shakes his head. You kind of can't read it. And then he walks away and just leaves her in the pub.
Okay.
And then she's like, oh, okay, he just rejected me. And she walks out and she walks to the Irish cliffs, which must be very close. And she's standing out at the cliffside and he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, well, you rejected me. And he's like, no, I just went to go get something. Which is great communication, Declan.
Oh, great.
And he pulls out a ring. And he's like, I don't want to not make plans with you. I want to make plans with you. Will you marry me? And he proposes on the cliffside with a sunset. And they make out. And then they show them doing a honeymoon where he's going to drive around the Irish countryside with her. And she just throws the atlas behind and says, just drive. Because she is cool and chill now and super easygoing.
Not controlling at all.
Not controlling at all. Her hair is slightly less styled. And she's just like, woo.
Okay. So
yes.
Let's go on to the first segment, the next day. So it's the day after their honeymoon, I guess.
Yep. They've finished the honeymoon, and now they're back at his pub. Day-to-day business.
So is she going to help run the pub?
I don't know, right? They're going to have some issues, because she's used to being a very high-profile thing. She's used to walking around being like, this, that, boom, boom, boom. I guess she'll start working on his decor in his pub and his hotel. His hotel is literally falling apart.
The hotel is attached to the pub?
Yes, and it's really shabby looking, and it's like a wallpaper nightmare. So I guess she could work on that. So she's going to have to downgrade that lifestyle. I think there's going to be some tension. She has no friends. She has a guy that she fights with a lot. They're going to fight a lot.
In a place called Dingle that does not allow for cell phone charging.
Yes. They just showed a bunch of old white men there who just go, ugh, and talk about what's superstitious or not, essentially. I feel like she's going to be lonely.
It's a town where all the young people have left.
Yes. They show children and they show some old people, and they have cliffs. So...
She's not going to be able to shop in the same way.
Nope.
How far is it from Dublin? Is it like an hour drive?
Oh, no. It took them like multiple days to get there. Like, you know, I mean, they had a whole thing. So it's not close to the city. So, yeah, I don't know. I think we need to go and will they make it? And I vote no.
Will they make it?
I vote no.
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 Okay, why not? Break it down for me.
Okay. No communication skills.
Uh-huh.
He literally can't communicate even when he wants to propose to her. He just walks away. They just fight all the time. She's lost some of her identity of her job. She has no friends here. I mean, they barely liked each other out of like 2 to 3 days spending together. They literally fought most of the time. So I hope the sex is good, man.
So when people are wooing each other, like when people are falling in love, I feel like there's a window where you are not quite yourself, where you kind of transcend yourself and you become much more flexible and open.
That's called honeymoon period, man.
Right.
Like, where you're like, this doesn't bother me that much. It'll be fine. Their honeymoon is very rough.
Does she change to being a fundamentally more relaxed person? Is she a different person from the person who demanded that they have a special flight for her?
Okay, I think she has changed. She's less entitled. She's more chill because nobody's going to put up with this in Ireland. Nobody's going to deal with her like that in Ireland. Nobody's going to handle that. So she is more relaxed, which is good for her. But I think it'll be short-lived, her persistent happiness, because it's just not a good fit. So
do they have chemistry?
For like a minute when they're having some nice things sometimes, and they're having a little bit of nice banter occasionally. But that's all in between fights and miscommunications. So.
Uh-huh.
Also, it's not that hard to, like, have some sexual tension with a man that you were just sleeping in a bed with, who you just made out with. Like, it's a bit hot, right? Like, yeah, sexual tension can be there, but then it kind of fizzles out after you get to do this stuff, right? And you've given up your whole entire life to be with that person.
So they dropped the whole leap year thing at some point.
They don't, he doesn't propose, the leap year's gone after that.
Otherwise, they'd have to wait 4 years, which would
Yes, leap year's gone. But they could have, if he had done her plan and they had just dated and seen what happens, that would be at least more reasonable. She's like, oh, I found out my fiance's a douche. I feel sexual chemistry. I guess I have money in the bank and I don't need to support myself. Okay. Do whatever you want.
On a 90-day fiance visa.
Oh, yeah. She needs to get a visa, too.
I think everybody who's interested in, like, romantic fantasy should watch 90 Day Fiance. Like, there's a lot of spiciness between cultures, but it is of a limited, shallow nature if you don't have that real connection, I guess.
Cultural differences are very difficult, and people can overcome them, but it's not easy, you know? And these people have no communication skills whatsoever.
Yeah. When she goes to the cliffs, does it imply that she's thinking about throwing herself off?
I don't think they meant it that way, but I kept thinking that. Like, she's literally standing at the cliffs when they make out and he proposes. They are about 5 steps away from having a tragedy happen when they're making out. I mean, you push each other too far in one position, just boom. So, yeah, for me, it's a big, hard nope. They're not going to make it.
Okay.
Yeah, they could have had a fun fling, though, right? Nothing wrong with a fun fling.
Yeah, comes back to Boston rejuvenated.
She's chiller.
New appreciation for the music of the Dropkick Murphys.
She just shouldn't have gotten married because then she has to get a divorce, and that's much messier. So that was a bad decision. So bad move, Anna. And then Declan's going to go back to being sad Declan, unfortunately.
Yeah, and eventually grow into an old, bitter man.
Yeah, sad Declan face.
Running the pub.
Yep.
Still probably pretty handsome.
I don't know. I don't know what a lot of years of the drinking will do to him.
You lose your looks eventually as Matthew Goode. Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. So that's too bad.
All right. Next segment. Ooh versus ew. So this is the things that they do to woo each other. Which ones appeal?
Which are like, ooh. And which are like, ew.
So,
What happens? I guess they cook together. That's a little ooh. That's kind of nice. They have a little nice banter there.
Yep.
Ew is just a lot of cringe in the film. It's just like them just having anger and fighting and poor communication is very ew. I don't like the thing of like fury turning into love like they try to do in some films. Like they fight so much because they love each other or they feel feelings for each other. I don't like that. So I feel like that's a lot of ew. They just insult each other constantly. They turn it into more jokey banter at the end. She even tells him at the end when he says something like, where do we go? Or I don't know what. She goes, shut up.
Yeah, you shouldn't tell people to shut up.
I don't like it. No, that's ew. Ew. They just have some sexual tension and they have minimal feelings, but they don't actually have like love. They don't actually love each other.
Yeah, that's like, that's infatuation.
Yeah, it's just infatuation. She finds him attractive. That's it. It's nothing. And, you know, we told the thing about how being in a really exciting adventure makes you more attracted to somebody. This is 100% that.
Sandra Bullock thing.
Yeah, where you're like really excited on a new vacation and that person next to you looks much more attractive because you're very exhilarated.
You've associated him with the concept of Ireland.
Yes, about her having a more adventure. So yes.
Okay, other segment.
Story of Us.
Story of Us, yeah. So
yes.
You dating either one of the leads.
Yes. Would I date one of the leads? No. Answer is no. Because she's a lot of work and I'm not into women. And he, if I was backpacking single in Ireland, he would be a great weekend fling. But then I would find his closed offness really annoying. So I would have a fun weekend fling with him. Done. I'd be like, wear that sweater, please. And then done. But I'm not having any long-term relationship with this guy.
You'd want him to wear the sweater in bed.
When we made out on the beach, because they do a lot of making out by the beach, and it's like, ooh, beach nice. So
Ireland beaches are cold, I bet.
Oh, yes. So you need that sweater. It makes sense. You need that sweater.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wouldn't be wearing high heels and step in some mud?
She wears a lot of high heels in it. Yeah. No, I would definitely wear appropriate shoe wear. Definitely.
That's why you're a more appropriate partner for him. Not partner, you're saying.
I would be a more appropriate hookup. Yeah. Because I would be less annoying to him initially. But he would also annoy me because he'd be very like feelings down. Not like I'd have to pull it all out of him.
You'd be constantly have to like pull up his energy.
Yeah, he would totally pull me down mood-wise, and he would find my enthusiasm kind of annoying because he's a cranky pants and he wants to stay a cranky pants for a while. So
right.
Yeah.
It's tough if someone has kind of decided to be a cranky pants, as you put it. They didn't even put a single leap year birthday person in there.
They didn't. They really didn't.
It was
they
an
didn't mention it once. Yeah.
Like that could have been what's special about him.
It could have been, yeah.
What intrigues her at first.
Yeah.
Like, hey, wow, you have a leap year birthday.
Yep.
That's kind of attractive. All right, let's get into the endorphin report.
Endorphin report.
Endorphin report. So where did you find the endorphins in this, Cynthia?
Where were the endorphins? Well, I have to mention, I did enjoy Countryside. If you just want to talk about happy, Countryside made me happy.
Okay.
Nostalgia that people actually use phone booths was nice. They actually walk around and use phone booths. You're like, remember that? But the actual happy romantic stuff, they have nice sexual tension where they're lying in bed and they do the little, oop, we look at each other, oop, we feel things. That dumb forced kiss they do is actually a bit hot if you actually isolate just the kiss. You're like, that's a good kiss. So that's some sprinkles.
It's sort of wrong, which is kind of spicy, I guess.
I mean,
she has a boyfriend.
It's where they're both like, oh, unexpected feelings. As they do this a lot. The forced kiss in movies, it's a big thing.
Right. Wait, when else are people forced to kiss?
Oh, like in front of family when you have to pretend that you're each other's boyfriends happens a lot in these films. Yeah, it happens a lot. Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, you're really boyfriend and girlfriend? Let's see you kiss.
Prove it. Give it a kiss.
Yeah. Okay, what else?
Him looking at her with a sweater. Nice. Also, him when he's in the hotel, and they're in the hotel lobby and he walks away and he gets this moment where he's like, oh, I can't let her go. And he turns to her and he's like,
adrenaline.
That is some nice endorphins. He feels things in that moment.
Was he going to propose to her right there?
No, he wasn't going to propose. He was just going to be like, I think he was going to be like, I feel things.
I feel things.
But that's a lot to be like, by the way, dump your boyfriend of 4 years.
Yeah.
For me.
So overall, would you recommend this movie for the endorphins?
No.
Okay.
I just don't think it's worth it. If you wanted to just watch 1 or 2 scenes for just some little ooh, that's a good nice kiss, you can do that.
Google forced kiss leap year.
Yeah, they literally have it. It pops up on YouTube all the time for some reason. It pops up. They're always like...
Pops up on your YouTube.
I think it's called Forced Kiss in YouTube. It's called like Innkeeper Forced Kiss.
That's somebody's specific
Leap year.
fetish. Socially forced kiss. Well, thanks for listening to Leap Year on the Endorphin Report. We don't have a signature sign-off.
No, we just go bye.
Right. Bye.
Bye.
Then tune on in for the Endorphin Report. The Endorphin Report.